In the quiet town of Northbridge, where life was generally predictable, an unexpected menace began to take root. To the ordinary eye, it all started innocently enough. An increased number of dogs licking anything and everything, a sight both amusing and commonplace. But for the vigilant, something sinister was brewing underneath the surface. Gail, the town's solitary vet, was the first one to notice the anomaly. Her clinic saw more dogs than usual, and they were all behaving unusually. Most of them seemed agitated, restless, but more interestingly, exhibited a tendency to lick everything. Walls, floors, furniture, people. Tests revealed the presence of a parasitic worm in the dog system. This is a common enough affliction. However, something about these parasites was different. There was a strange energy to them, a darker energy that was very, very wrong. The change in the town folks was even more subtle. People who were previously completely indifferent or maybe even fearful of dogs were now becoming oddly affectionate towards them. No criticism of the dogs was tolerated. It was met with anger and hostility. What was more concerning was the strange canine-like behavior the humans started exhibiting. Barking at perceived threats, walking on all fours, sniffing others as a form of greeting. The entire town was beginning to lose its sense of reality. One late evening, Gail discovered the unsettling truth behind the mystery. While examining the parasite under the microscope, she saw something that defied all logic. The worm had the silhouette of a demon, complete with horns and tail. Her heart was pounding. Gail recalled ancient folklore she had read during her college years. It spoke of a type of demon that could reside in parasites capable of influencing the mind of both animals and humans, known as the Canidemon. They used their host to spread their control, leading to chaos and destruction. The realization sent a chill down Gail's spine. The parasitic worms weren't just ordinary parasites. They were the physical manifestations of Canidemons. Every lick, every parasitic egg spread was a potential new host for the demons, corrupting the minds of humans, making them more like their canine hosts, and spreading the demonic influence even further. Despite the danger that awaited her, Gail knew that she was the only one who understood what was truly happening in Northbridge. The fate of the town rested in her hands, and she was determined to fight the demonic invasion. Little did she know that the path she was embarking on would lead her into the darkest corners of her town and her own soul. Part 2, The Canidemon Inception. As the canine contagion continued to spread through Northbridge, Gail dedicated her every waking moment to understanding more about the Canidemon parasites. She started to dig deep into the forgotten folklore and obscure medical literature, searching for any information about how these demonic parasites operated and, more importantly, how they could be eradicated. Gail discovered that Canidemons were ancient entities, drawing their power from their host's loyalty and emotions. Their invasion began subtly, influencing the mind of their host and then slowly took control. When the dog licked a person, the eggs of the Canidemon would transfer, and with time, the human psyche would be altered, becoming more dog-like and eventually serving the will of the Canidemons. Every night, as the town slept, Gail witnessed the eerie spectacle of previously mild-mannered residents prowling the streets on all fours, howling at the moon. Day by day, the change in the town folks grew more and more pronounced, their human identity slowly dissolving away. Even as the situation grew increasingly dire, Gail held on to the hope that her knowledge of veterinary medicine, coupled with her newfound understanding of the demonic lore, might give her a fighting chance against the Canidemons. Meanwhile, Gail found an unlikely ally in Elijah, the local librarian who shared her interest in folklore and the unexplained. He stumbled upon Gail's late-night research in the library and was drawn into the mystery. A friendship quickly formed between them, finding solace in the other's acceptance of the extraordinary circumstances their town was facing. Based on a cryptic line from an ancient book, Elijah suggested a possible way to disrupt the Canidemons' influence. It read as follows: "In the light of loyalty's origin, the demon's power shall wane." Gail interpreted this to mean the origin of a dog's loyalty, their connection with humans, and their food. She devised a plan to test this theory. She began by treating one of the infected dogs, a golden retriever named Max, using an experimental serum developed from the hormone oxytocin, known to enhance the bonding and trust in animals. The treatment was a long shot, but Gail was willing to take any chance. Days turned into nights as Gail administered the treatment, simultaneously comforting Max with gentle words and caresses, attempting to rekindle the natural bond between human and dog. She watched with bated breath as Max's condition gradually improved. The experiment's success brought newfound hope. However, treating the humans was more complicated. For them, the bond had to be severed with the Canidemon before a new bond could be formed, a process that could be dangerous, even deadly. Gail braced herself for the arduous task that laid ahead, unaware of the challenges and revelations that awaited her in the darkest hours of the Canidemon invasion. Part 3. The Battle for Northbridge. Following the successful treatment of Max, Gail and Elijah started to scale up their operation. They transformed Gail's clinic into a temporary research center, hoping to produce enough oxytocin serum to begin treating the town's infected humans. Simultaneously, they worked on a plan to reconnect the people with their original human bonds, hoping this would act as a counter to the Canidemons' influence. They organized a town meeting, planning to utilize videos and photographs of families and friends in happier, more human times. The hope was to rekindle memories strong enough to shake the Canidemons' hold over the infected townfolk. The day of the meeting arrived. Elijah stood at the entrance, apprehensive, as the transformed residents began to fill the town hall, their snarling faces illuminated by the eerie light. Gail took a deep breath, gathering her courage, and stepped onto the stage. She began with the heartwarming story of a dog's loyalty to its human and his food, emphasizing the bond that they shared through the food. The crowd's growls subsided. Their interest peaked. Gail continued, displaying images and videos on a large screen, showing residents in their more human days, laughing, celebrating, and simply living. In the crowd, signs of recognition began to emerge. Tears filled some eyes, while others wore expressions of confusion, as if trying to remember a long-forgotten dream. But when a video showing a community picnic played, kids running around, adults laughing, dogs playing fetch, the room fell into an emotional silence. Some of the affected people broke down, their human instincts surfacing as they reached out for their loved ones. However, not all were susceptible to the memories. Some reacted violently, their dog-like aggression unshaken. It was clear that the next phase of the plan needed to be executed: the oxytocin serum. In the clinic, Gail and Elijah filled syringes with the serum they had painstakingly prepared. Armed with the potential antidote, they returned to the meeting and began administering it to the most affected individuals. The results were promising but slow. Some people began to calm down, their agitation slowly subsiding, the human-like attributes returning. But for others, the transformation appeared to be too deeply ingrained, their human sides buried too deep. In the midst of the chaos, Gail found herself confronted by an aggressive figure, Tom, the town's mayor, and her high school friend who had transformed into one of the fiercest Canidemon hosts. He growled at her, his eyes blazing with demonic energy. As Gail faced him, clutching a syringe filled with serum, she realized the magnitude of the challenge ahead. The battle for Northbridge was far from over, and the true test was just beginning. Part 4. Despite the tireless efforts of Gail and Elijah, the Canidemons' hold over Northbridge proved to be too strong to break. For every resident that recovered, 2 more would succumb to the parasite, their humanity washed away by a tidal wave of primal instincts and demonic influence. Facing Tom, Gail plunged the serum-filled syringe into his arm, hoping against hope to bring back her old friend. For a moment, Tom's eyes softened, and a glimmer of his former self surfaced. But it was only a fleeting respite. A guttural growl escaped his throat. His eyes flared with an unholy light, and he swiped at Gail, sending her sprawling across the floor. Elijah rushed to Gail's side, helping her to her feet. They shared a desperate look, both understanding the grim reality they were losing Northbridge to the Canidemons. In the following days, the town fell deeper and deeper into chaos. Normal life ceased as the Canidemon hosts roamed the streets, marking their territory and enforcing their dominance over the unaffected. Families were torn apart, friendships dissolved, and the once close-knit community of Northbridge was replaced by a town filled with snarling, dog-like humans under the Canidemon's sway. Gail and Elijah were forced to retreat, watching helplessly as the town they loved transformed right before their eyes. They continued to care for the few dogs they managed to treat, providing a sanctuary for those innocents caught in a supernatural tug of war. As the days turned into weeks, the change in the town folks was absolute. No trace of their former humanity remained. The Canidemons were victorious. The once peaceful town of Northbridge was now the domain of the demons, a grim testament to their power and influence. Gail and Elijah, the last remaining vestiges of the town's former life, found themselves living in a new world. A world where dogs walked on 2 legs and humans on all A world where dogs walked on 2 legs and humans on all 4s. They shared a last solemn glance at the town sign, now scratched and worn, a symbol of the transformation that had taken place. Northbridge was no more. In its place stood Canidae, the home of the Canidemons. The demons had won and humanity had lost. Yet, even in this bleak reality, Gail and Elijah found solace in their shared defiance, their unbroken spirit, a beacon of hope in a world overrun by darkness. Though they had lost the battle, their story was far from over. They were survivors, the last stand against the Canidemons, their resolve unwavering, ready for the long resistance ahead. The final. Even the strongest fortress has its weak point, and the last bastion of humanity in Northbridge, Gail and Elijah, were no different. Despite their relentless resistance, the relentless power of the Canidemons began to slowly but surely seep into their lives. Despite their best efforts to protect themselves and the treated dogs in their care, the Canidemon parasites found a way in. It started subtly with Gail, a heightened affinity for the dogs, an unexpected aggression towards criticism of canine behavior, and an unsettling tendency to snarl when she was upset. She tried to hide it, but Elijah noticed the transformation. He wanted to fight it to save Gail, but the resources they had were all but depleted. The town was fully under the control of the Canidemons, and the influence of the demonic parasites was all pervading. Even as he sought a way to stem the progression of Gail's infection, Elijah found himself increasingly drawn to the same tendencies. As days turned to weeks, their resistance waned. The instincts and the influence of the Canidemons was growing stronger. One day, Elijah found himself on all 4s, barking at a passing squirrel. Gail, noticing this, didn't react with shock or worry, but instead joined him, her barks echoing his in a chilling canine duet. It was their final surrender to the Canidemons. The remnants of Northbridge's old world disappeared with Gale and Elijah's transformation. The sanctuary for the treated dogs ceased to exist, and the dogs themselves became hosts of the Canidemons, joining the rest of the town in their new reality. The human element of Northbridge was extinguished, replaced entirely by the rule of the Canidemons. Elijah and Gale, once the beacon of resistance against the Canidemons, now roamed the streets of Canaday on all fours, their human consciousness buried beneath the potent influence of their canine instincts. They lived among their fellow Canidemon hosts, marking territories, defending their pack, and succumbing entirely to their new lives. The world as they knew it was gone, replaced by the reign of the Canidemons as they howled at the moonlit sky. There was no trace of humanity in their eyes, only the glint of a new, formidable reality. Northbridge had fallen, and the Canidemons had won, their victory marking the dawn of a new era in the world of humans and dogs alike.